Good evening, friends. At the outset, I express my sincere thanks, gratitude to All India Youth Federation for inviting me to speak on a very important topic, that is COVID-19 induced crisis, how to tackle the COVID induced crisis. I also thanks Abhijit Babu for contacting me and trying to utilize whatever my experience or knowledge for the society. Now, coming to the topic is tackling the COVID-induced crisis. Before going for solution, we need to discuss first how it was generated, what is its impact on the Indian economy as well as world economy, and what are the steps taken by government of India and other government, and what should be taken, what are the solution or how to tackle the COVID-induced crisis. First thing is still debate is going on where it was generated, how it was generated, whether China is responsible for this or not. Particularly, still it is not proved whether China created it or not. It is not yet proved. Different views are coming. But it was originated in China, that is correct. But when it originated in China, it was the duty of all other states, including America. They should have taken attempt how to control it, how to tackle it, and how it does not spread to other countries. But unfortunately, they tried to blame not only China but also communism, because communism has nothing to do with this. It could have been attempt could have been taken where it was found, but at that time a very valuable time were wasted for blaming each other or indulging in conspiracy theory. Had not capitalist countries indulged in such type of conspiracy theory, and they would have tried for this, to cure this or to tackle this at when it started, then world we would not have witnessed such problems what we are now facing. As far as India is concerned, it was first discovered in January 31 in Kerala. But at that time, our government did not take immediate action. And they suddenly, when state government started lockdown, suddenly they come with the Janata curfew, then immediately they declared lockdown without giving times to Indians for prepare this. Because there was around more than 2 months in the hand of ruling class, where they could have prevented, they could have taken steps, they could have allowed people to move from one place to another, then they could have gone for lockdown or any measure. But sudden declaration created a lot of problems, and particularly problem of migration that led to infection in later stage. Government remain indulging in some other activities, and what would have been better had they taken proper action. Anyway, that is now different story. We cannot go back to this, but now question is how it has impacted Indian economy and world economy. It has impact in different way. First one is the economic shocks, another is the financial shocks, third is the policy shocks. I will come first to policy shock. Policy shocks means before corona virus affecting Indian economy was slowing down. Indian economy was not in a good position before corona affecting the Indian economy. Indian economy was devastated by demonetization, draconian demonetization, as well as faulty implementation of GST. And it was also affected by the global factor, global slowdown. And at that time, before the corona afflicting, we had witnessed highest unemployment rate of 6.1% in 2017-18. That was 45 years high. Next important thing was that consumer spending was 4-decade low. Another thing was that employment rate in the Indian history first time was declined, and the growth rate was almost very slow, and almost India was facing one type of growth recession. That means there was the symptom shows that it is a recession, so technically it was not a recession. Rupee was depreciating, inflation was high, so ruling class cannot claim present crisis due to COVID only. COVID has aggravated the crisis, but before COVID affecting India was already slowing down, and all indicators was in downward trend. Next important thing is that how economic shocks affected. Economic shocks means both demand shocks and supply shocks. Demand shocks means compression of demand, because since people lost a job, since people purchasing power decline, since people could not earn as required, their livelihood affected, automatically decline is their spending or discretionary spending affected the overall demand, aggregate demand of the economy. That was demand compression. Another important thing is the supply disruption. Supply disruption means since the movement of people was restricted due to lockdown, business was closed, economic activity was shuttered, so communication was disturbed, no tourist movement, no movement from place to another place, no business activities, no functions. All these things led to supply disruption. So that supply disruption also led to demand compression. Supply disruption also led to decrease in income of the people, decline of their jobs, so it affected. Another important thing that affected is financial shocks. Financial shocks means destruction of wealth, or say paper wealth in stock market. At that time, the finance capital is such a dangerous phenomena. Nobody can say when it will come, invest, or it will throw away. In the initial stage of crisis, they destroyed the stock market around the world, including India. So, Indian economy was affected by financial shocks, policy shocks, and demand shocks, and result supply shocks. It affected in every aspect of the Indian economy, and the world has seen various economic crises or crises resulting various virus infection. But this is one of the unique crises, and it is also unique in our life. And it's a devastating impact. Still, it is difficult to measure because it has not been yet ended. It is spreading its tentacle throughout the world in faster rate. And more than 13 million people are now affected in the world, while more than 5 lakh people have succumbed to the infection. And in the month of May, India's position was 9th in the world. Now it has occupied 3rd position, and there is a lot of apprehension that India will cross America to become #1 infected country. It has various resources that the growth rate will be contracted by 5% around in 2020 and 21. It may be noted that in 2018, 2019 and 20, India has envisaged growth of 6.8%, but results say it is around 4.2%, which is around 13-year low. One may say that COVID might have an impact on this, but only 8 days of lockdown period is part of financial year 2019 and 20. So, if this is the position of 2019-20, what will be the precarious, what will be the danger of the economy in current financial year? That means it is expected it will be contracted by 5%, that means it will be negative 5%. That means total contraction will be 5%, reduction, and it is 4.2%, that means more than 9%. And it is also expected that the world economy will be declined by around 6%. Here I may remind that in the global crisis 2007-8, world economy has lost GDP around $2-3 trillion. It was world GDP was reduced by around 1.7%. But at that time, India had witnessed 6.7% growth rate. The reason is that India was a savings-oriented economy. India had a strong public sector. India has not liberalized all sector. India has not exposed all sector to the vulnerability of a world economy. And India had not done that because strong opposition from the progressive people, left-leaning people, or the trade union workers. So indirectly, progressive people have helped India to be decoupled by the global crisis in 2007-8. Anyway, that is the thing of the past. But the present context, around it is expected that a large number of crores of people will be dragged into the poverty. India, as well as various countries, witness massive poverty, hunger, starvation. It is already experienced, but clear data has not come. It is not only, we are not only for reduction of growth. Growth is not only matters, but why we always object inequitable growth? Because the benefit of the growth goes to the certain section of the society. But when there is a growth benefit goes to the research section of society, as we know how inequality is so staggering and pervasive. But now, when growth is declining, richer section of the society are not affected. Rather, poorer section of the society are more impoverished and decimated. Because recently you have heard news. Ambani has grown from number 8 to number 6 positions. And its wealth has increased and is expected to grow further. That is a paradox of our economic policy. When people's livelihood is devastated, when people are struggling to cope with living, to sustain their livelihood, how the policy is helping to the richer section of the society to amass such mammoth wealth. That is the most inhuman thing that entire world is witnessing. When richer section of the society, they are contributing in other countries. Someone has contributed $2.9 billion, for which his wealth was reduced and his number position was reduced so that Ambani could take up, outstrip him. But our richer section of the society are not contributing that cause. That is the major question. What is important that it has affected? I do not think that it needs elaboration, because we are all experiencing. Most important thing, demand is squeezed, jobs are lost, livelihood are lost, people, and another major thing is that it will gradually create many depression, anxiety. Those who are of much higher age, they have enjoyed their certain part of life. We know everybody will die, everybody will succumb to the inexorable journey of time. But the truth is that those who have started their life, they are young, they cannot mix with the people, they cannot move outside, they cannot have a job, their livelihood, their thought process, their everything is destroyed. So gradually, apart from destroying the livelihood job, it will create depression, anxiety among the so many people. And particularly, more danger is that nobody is coming forward to treat other patient out of fear. Because as COVID is spread by touching or some that methods, so in other diseases, doctors are not prepared to treat, so more people will not die because of only COVID-19. People will also die because of a lack of treatment from other disease. That is one of the biggest challenge before humanity. So the impact is so pervasive, so huge. It is very, very difficult to measure it or to tell in a few words. So now question comes, how, what should be method to tackle it? How to face the COVID-induced recession? It is exactly we are much past recession. It is in nearly we are in depression. Recession means there will be negative growth in two quarters consecutively. Depression means growth will be there will be decline of growth by 10%, or there will be unemployment by 25%. There are so many indicators. So I think even India or world economy is facing a sort of a depression which was witnessed in 1930. Even this present situation is more dangerous than 1930 because there was no problem of communication, there was no risk of social cohesion. So it is present situation is more dangerous than any situation world has faced in its history. So as far as tackling the crisis, first important thing is that there should be increase in the demand. Because for increase of demand, there is need for job creation, creation of employment opportunity, increasing the purchasing power or transferring money to the people, and enhancing the business economic activities which is still constrained or still hindered by COVID-19. But what are the measures taken by present ruling class? The measure taken by our government has declared 20 lakh crore package. Good thing. But what are the fiscal outgo of government? What is the amount of money government is going to spend on that area? Direct money is around 2 to 2.5 lakh crores, which is varying from 1 to 1.5% of GDP. It is not 10% of GDP as publicized. But entire world has given package is around 11 trillion dollar. 1 trillion is 1000 billion. 1 billion is 100 crores. And in other countries, the fiscal outgo or government expenditure is varying from 40 to 50% of total package. But in India, it is around 10%. But the measure taken by government is related to supply sides. That is infusion of liquidity. Second thing is reducing the interest rate, and it is said that savers are going to get negative real interest. Nominal interest minus inflation is real interest rate. So savers are now most destroyed hot, which is known as financial depression. Present crisis is not much linked to supply constraint, because supply constraint, it is said that supply, sales law says that supply creates its own demand, which is not viable in always. In present context, supply constraint is mainly linked to restriction in the mobility of the people as well as business and economic activities. So it cannot, unless people are allowed to move freely or people able to move freely or able to job is created, people able to do their job properly, generate their own income, then supply constraint cannot be solved by just these measures. These measures, reduction of interest rate or infusion of liquidity will have value when there is a free movement of people as well as restriction in business activities is totally removed. Anyway, that is another aspect. The most important aspect is creating demand. One thing is that why investor will come to invest here, we must understand. Investor will invest because of profit, because people will purchase their commodity or service. If people have no money, if demand is reduced, if people do not purchase their commodity, why investor will invest? That is the question. Even they are given a huge corporate tax cut, they are given all concessions, still they will not likely to go invest unless there is a demand for the products, demand for their products. So for this, people's purchasing power need to be increased, and a creation of job is very vital, but the government is taking the austerity measure, reducing job. They have decided not to fill the vacancy, not to float new schemes, and that will lead to a vicious circle which will aggravate the position. We may know savings leads to investment that leads to growth. Similarly, every expenditure creates a job opportunity for others. How? Private expenditure creates, public expenditure also creates job opportunity for others. Suppose you are giving your children's marriage. In marriage function, you spend money, who cooks, dancers, or who broadcasters, all these materials indirectly they are benefited. If you keep a driver, you create a job. If you a housemaid servant, you also create job. So indirectly, private expenditure creates jobs, public expenditure also creates jobs. If government invest in health, it creates job. If invest in the road infrastructure, it creates job. So every expenditure creates jobs, while if private expenditure is inequitable, public expenditure is equitable. But particularly in present time, people are reluctant to spend for various reasons. One is uncertainty of future. Second is their income is affected and they are depressed. They do not know what will happen in future, so they want to, if they have money, they want to preserve more. Second thing, they are not even able to purchase they want because of the restriction in the business activities or the mobility. I am not telling that it is necessary, because COVID is spreading, it is required to restriction. So when people are private spending is not coming, private sector is not investing, government is the only alternative led to state or a government. But government only fiscal package is around 1 to 1.5% of GDP. So how it will be solved when government has given concession, corporate tax concession amounting 1.7 lakh crores. But but it is not prepared to spend more for these present times. So when government spending is squeezed and austerity measure is affected, it will backtrack the economy further downward. Here I may remind one thing, that is the paradox of thrift, which was propounded by great economist Keynes. According to him, during recession, if people save, during recession, if people save more, spend less, then it will aggregate demand will reduce. Aggregate demand will be affected, then it will leading to declining of growth. In present context, people want to spend, but they are not able to spend due to restriction, due to contraction in business activities, as well as lack of job opportunity. So it is going to seriously affect economy if the government does not come forward to spend and invest more. The question comes, where government will get money? Because when you talk problems or when somebody talks problems, he must come out with some solution. Otherwise, there is no meaning. It is easy to discuss problems, blame somebody, but without what is the solution. That is the important thing. There are so many things. First, we may know that our tax GDP ratio, which was around 11%, more than 11% in 2017 and 18, it has been reduced to 9.8% 2019-20, and it will be further reduced in current financial year. Before COVID affecting, India had one of the lowest tax GDP ratio. That is the major problems for India. It is not, I am not telling that happened in present government only. That has been for a long time. India has one of the lowest tax GDP ratio. Both center state, it is around 17%, which is half of the many advanced and OECD countries. Whenever our government tells that we have quoted so many schemes, we have given so much monies, but people must understand that, and the government must understand that in nominal term our income is increasing, people's salary is increasing, so government tax is increasing, government budget side is increasing. It is around 30 lakh crores. So whoever become prime minister or finance minister or whatever position, he will have to spend this money, he will have some new scheme, he will renew scheme, while he will have different schemes or he have many schemes. So it is not a question government should tell that I have given so much money to state or plotted so many schemes. What is important? Government should improve the standard of living of the people. It should spend more health, education and make it cheaper. Because around 5 crore people every year are dragged into poverty due to health expenditure. Our health expenditure is one of the lowest in the world as percentage of GDP, varying from 1% to 1.3%. That is one of the lowest. India has the most privatized healthcare sector. And people total health expenditure, out of health expenditure, 70% is borne by the Indians. So really government spends. So if health can be provided at cheaper rate, then automatically people's disposable or discretionary income will rise, their purchasing power will rise, they can purchase more commodity, demand will stimulate it. So instead of floating and declaring so many schemes, government should rather spend, provide health, education free of cost or at cheaper rate. Education expenditure as percent of GDP is varying 3% around. When we are talking of self-reliance, our expenditure as percent of GDP in our development, research and development is around 0.7%, which is also one of the lowest in the world. So let the government provide free health education instead of talking about so many schemes. Anyway, that is a separate thing. So important thing is, in present context, first we would discuss how should government generate the resources. In India, the tax GDP ratio is one of the lowest. There may be so many reasons. That means our GDP is overstated, so tax is not collected. Let us GDP calculation is correct. Second important thing is that if that is correct, then there is a tax evasion. Richer section are not paying tax as required. Corporators are not paying as required. They are not showing their balance sheet properly. So there is a huge tax evasion, and it may be noted that in once upon a time our highest income tax was 97%, now it is 30%. Somebody earning crores of rupees from IPL in the overnight, a person, a man of 16, 17 years should not pay tax in at 80, 90% for the nation. If there will be no taxation, there will be no resources, how government will spend, how the inequality will be addressed. So India, this COVID-19 has exposed the broken system, has exposed the devastating situation of Indians before COVID afflicting. COVID has just aggravated, but we are realizing how our financial system, economic system, and social system is so broken, so devastated, that is exposed now. So important thing is that government should raise resources by taxing the rich at a higher rate. It is said that the rich should not be taxed because they have earned money by their entrepreneurship, their talent, efficiency. Then if it is so, then why they are begging for package? Why $1 trillion were given to the corporate sector as package in the world after global crisis? They are utilizing resources of our resources at cheaper rate. They are utilizing the roads of the prepared by the government. They are utilizing the railway. They are utilizing the transportation facility. They are utilizing the everything that is created by the taxes collected from the masses. One may think, those who are employed, they are thinking that they are paying tax, poorer section are not paying tax. It is quite wrong. They are paying huge tax through indirect tax and through advertisement. Every product contains advertisement cost that is paid by the masses. All indirect tax are paid by the masses. So even those who is begging, he is also paying tax. We may pay tax from salary, but they are also paying tax. Everybody is paying tax. So nobody has become rich, nobody has achieved anything without the social contribution. One has become a doctor without reading which medical college. He has this medical college money of the people are invested. So it is the duty of a person to contribute the society for uplifting of the masses. So it is time that government should impose the wealth tax. Government should impose either the inherit tax or should tax the richer section of the higher interest, and particularly those corporate who are making huge profit. I am not against private sector, remember. I am against the privatization of public sector or replacing the public sector by private sector. But private sector has also a bigger role to play. They are also doing roles, but they should not confine to only profit motive, what we see. But what is important thing, those who are making huge profit like your money, why they should not give some percentage of wealth to the government when the survival of humanity is at stake? That is the biggest question. So my question is that government should generate resources by taxing the rich, imposing wealth tax or other taxes, they should avenues. And it should give a scope to state to borrow more if he wants. Because they have a earlier government was borrowing, state government fiscal deficit was really 3%. They have allowed to borrow 5% of GDP, but from 2% extra, only 0.5% is unconditional. Sometimes we are blaming state government. I don't think it is necessary to blame government because our system, they are not allowed to impose new tax. GST has squeezed their scopes of imposing further tax. So it is the duty of the center to maintain the cooperative federalism and contribute to help the states. But the center should not be have a adversary or should not speak against the state, whether it is led by BJP or non-BJP or any Congress government. Center's duty is to help the state, whoever rules there. So question is, apart from taxing, another is debt. Debt means borrowing more, which is lead to fiscal deficit. Many, those who are opposed to fiscal deficit, they tell that fiscal deficit will lead to borrowing debt, it will lead to more inflation, it will create so many problems, investor will be seriously disheartened, they will leave the country. These are a made argument. First thing is that debt will increase. Yes, debt will increase. But if you do not borrow, if you do not spend more, then economic activities will contract and growth will decline. GDP will further decline. As a result, your debt as a GDP will also further increase. Second thing is that inflation. Inflation, even without borrowing much, there is inflation. So when survival of humanity is at stake, if a little bit inflation rises, there is no problem. And inflation is not always bad. A little bit inflation is good. Even higher inflation is not bad if everybody's purchasing power income rises in the same proportion as inflation rises. That doesn't happen. So government has no alternative to borrow more. If does not borrow, then GDP will decline as a percent of GDP. Debt as a percent of GDP will also further increase. Here I may remind, the entire world debt is more than 3% of a world GDP. Who are beneficiary of this debt-induced growth? That is a question to ask. The debt-induced growth, the beneficiary are the rich or corporate sector, not masses. Otherwise, there would not have so much hunger, poverty, starvation. That is the most important thing. So benefit of debt has gone to richer section of society. So debt is another, or borrowing is another option. Another important option is monetization of deficit. I had written on their topic in the past and also recently. And many also top economists also advocating if government borrowing becomes so unsustainable and becoming huge, then government should come forward to monetizing some part of its deficit. Fiscal deficit means excess of expenditure over non-borrowed receipts. So how to government will monetization of spending? It's two parts. One is monetization of deficit, another is monetization of spending, that is helicopter money. Monetization of deficit means RPI in normally deficit, governments borrow for market and then if borrowing increases. In that case, government will borrow from RBI will print more currency and will lend to government, or it will lend, government will borrow through banks from RBI, indirectly. Then somebody says government has to repay it also. Yes, government, in that case, monetization of deficit, government, this will be not purview of total debt, but the government has to repay this. But how it will benefit? government will be huge resources to spend, first thing. Second thing is that when RBI print currency, RBI dividends increases. How it increases? Because the face value of currency and minus the cost of printing currency. The difference is known as signiorage profit, which is increases. So when RBI's signiorage profit increases, it can give more dividends to government. So this method is more preferable than that. In past, before 1997, government was monetizing deficit, but it has been stopped from 1997 under the finance capital, pressure of finance capital. I am not advocating that it should be implemented every year, but in present crisis it is necessary when there is a resource constraint. So government must resort to this method. Another method is helicopter money. In helicopter means it is told that Friedman has invented, propounded theory. That means in helicopter, distributing or throwing something to people. Here, helicopter will not throw money. It means RBI will print money, currency. It will be not in record. It will not be in liability side or asset side or anything. That will be given to the people. So in particular stress, my suggestion, government may resort to monetization of deficit or helicopter money. They should not allow the state finance to deteriorate. If central finance deteriorate or debt increases, this is not a problem because center has an immense capacity to raise revenue. Center has many resources to raise revenue or make up in future. But if all states' finances are destroyed or in doldrums, including central finances, then entire Indian economy will be demolished, devastated, and pounded. So it is a high time that states should come, center should come forward. They are in any means they should raise the resources. They should give more money to states so that they do not any face problem. So where the money should be spent? My thought is that everybody know COVID is affecting is so seriously and nobody is sure what will happen tomorrow. And what is most tragic thing is today the humanity is lost. Conscience is killed because when survival of a society, humanity is at stake, how the politician not able to abdicate or relinquish their nefarious ambition. That is most escapable thing that is happening in the present society. Even people have not given up their arrogance, jealousy, vindictiveness, and when they do not know what will happen to next day. So COVID has not, even people have not learn anything from the impact. Nobody knows what will happen tomorrow. It is not time to publicize propaganda or advertise anything or blaming anything or making election campaigns or making rallies for political mileage or communalizing any issue or blaming any community. It is time to jointly work and defeat the corona pandemic. That is not happening not only in India, it is also in the world. Still there is a trade war, there is a war between weak countries, and the war leaders of the head of the states are trying to shift the blame to others by invoking the sentiments of the people, creating war hysteria, blaming other countries, indulging in currency war, trade war. So this is the situation. I think human being has lost humanity and conscience. So it is time to government first ensure the free mobility of the people. That is a very vital thing. Why I am telling. We know the rate of death is low in comparison to advanced countries in India because it's a hot country, it is because a younger country, because the immune system of the Indians are better than foreign countries. That is the main reason. But if infection is rises so rapidly, even there is so many people is likely to succumb this infection. So people should have a immediate availability of a treatment at their disposal. Somebody who will have easily access to the health facility. That is the first thing. If somebody knows that if I get immediately infected or I might get any fever, I have treatment. But I want to tell that most of the Indians for some certain disease, they purchase medicine without consulting the doctors. They purchase medicine by just asking or consulting the owner of the medical shop, those who are pharmacists. Even highly qualified, educated people do not go to doctor not because they are not interested, because lack of doctor, rush in hospital, medicals, and a lab, one has to wait for longer period, one have to purchase a ticket for it requires a day time. So lack of doctor, medical facilities push the people to consult the pharmacist or owner of the medical medicine shop. This is the situation of India. So in that case, government should spend enormously in health sector. The corporate tax concession given to corporate, had it been spent in the health sector, then we would have been far better off. At least it should be spent in such a way that anybody desire for a treatment immediately from any disease, especially COVID, will be at his nearby place. Anybody is feeling fever should be immediately have access for a testing. If initial stage, when one is affected with fever or a cough or a sneezing, if he has a access to at least testing facility, then treatment facility, then he will go immediately and he will get treatment, then he has a 100% chance to recover. This will enable that people will can ensure business activities free from fear. Recently, government is allowing people to stay in a home, those who are not symptomatic. They are telling it because simple, they do not have a adequate hospital or a doctor. That is the main reason. Had they been so, they would not have told. So now, though, particularly, government should do things. Government should not switch off. Government should not resort to austerity measures. It should start recruitment. It should create new job. It should spend more in health expenditure, at least only health sector, if not others, so that people have easy access to health facility, whether it is affected by COVID or any other disease. Then economy will revive, economic activity will grow, what will be the consequence. And finally, when we are telling the responsibility of government, it is also the responsibility of the citizens. We have also got sort of a responsibility towards Indian economy or Indian government or Indian citizens. We cannot escape our responsibility just blaming the government or shifting the responsibility to government. We should contribute for this noble cause according to our capacity. We should help our nearby neighbor or refugees are struggling. A little bit, even one may think they, even one, if one give 100 rupees to a poor person, that it has an immense value for that person. Sometimes we think that 100 rupees is not meaningful. No, it has a lot of meaning to a poor person. Suppose we are employing a maid servant, or we have employed drivers, or we are providing indirect job to some other. We should not totally driven them out. Since our working hour reduced or job is reduced or we are preventing them to come, we may not give a full what they are getting, but we should give some portion of their salary at least, and we should may at least give some advance so that we can deduct in future, so that and we should also prepare to certain purchase certain commodity even it at higher rates, because one day I had gone to a shop purchasing some grocery. At that time I saw a shop, exactly that is a Buria shop. His purchase is selling vegetables because nobody is purchasing his items. So I deliberately purchase vegetables from his shop because it also creates, it also helping to generate money. So we should not it at our aim. We should to see how we can help others to generate income, even it is 100 rupees or 5 rupees, 1000 rupees. That is, we should not forget it. We should not forget our neighbors. We should not forget our others. That will be our contribution. So it is whatever amount may be. So it is time we must give up other bad habits. We should do generous, what money or social prestige or fame, whatever we have, only other can rejoice, other can celebrate if they are alive. So when question of survival of humanity state, it is the responsibility of citizens, governments, trade unions, politicians, workers, every section of the society to contribute this cause in what way they can contribute. Otherwise, very dangerous things ahead. We have to avoid this, or we have to prepare for this, or we must try to tackle it. So it is time we must tackle, because where there is a will, there is a way. Thank you all for listening my speech. Thank you the organization, All India Youth Federation, their leaders, their cadres, their political leaders for thinking me to speak something. I was thinking to speak in Odia because I can speak in Odia and also English, but I prefer to speak in English. It's not that I have no fascination in Odia. I love Odia because I prefer to write more in Odia because it is read by Odia people. But I prefer to speak in English because it can reach the other section of the society, those who are not Odia, non-Odia, those who are staying in outside in other centers. So for this, I beg apology from Odia loving people, not to misunderstand me. Thank you all, thank you everybody, thank you.